Hello Animorphs fans and welcome back to the Animorphs universe. We are doing the second half of the ultimate fan ranking. For the last year and a half or so, I've asked you to rate each Animorphs book out of 5. From book 1 to 54, all the Chronicles, all the Megamorphs and the 2 Alternamorphs books. And you did that in quite lovely numbers, which meant I could average out the scores and give the ultimate Animorphs ranking to see where you put each book. And we've already done the first part, which was the bottom half of the ranking scale, the ranking thing, and this was the result. So this bottom shelf here, with The Weakness being crowned the worst book of the series by a considerable margin, winning the coveted Honda Jazz Worst Book Award. There were a few minor surprises along the way, but nothing too shocking. But today we're going to do the top half. We're going to figure out which book you think is the best in the series. And I had to come up with a prize. So obviously we've got the prize for the worst book. I didn't really have a prize for the best book, so I just put Bonnie from Five Nights at Freddy's up there to sing the winner a little, or play, I don't freaking know. But whatever, there's a freaking Bonnie there, I don't know. It's also, I put it there as a reminder, by the way, to go watch my gaming channel, A Heap of Games. If you don't already, I play a lot of games, often Five Nights at Freddy's, so go watch that. That's partly why that's there as well, that's the secret reason. Yeah, go watch A Heap of Games. I've been doing it for about 10 years, on and off, and yeah, if you want more of me, you weird people. Anyway, shall we get started with the ranking? In the middle of the pack, on the wrong side of the middle of the pack, we had The Conspiracy, book 31. Now, with a score of 3.939, because it was very close. I might have actually cocked this up a bit. I'm just looking at my scores now, and why have I put that there when it should be... Oh god. Right. This is embarrassing. How have I managed to cock that up? I'll tell you why that's happened. Because I did all the scores, and like an hour before I closed it, I went through them again, and a few had like an extra vote, and I changed them. I've obviously not switched them round. So, right, so book 18, The Decision, is in 34th place. The Pretender and The Conspiracy move up one, which means that The Conspiracy is now in the top half, where it probably belonged all along, so... What a crappy way to start the video. Anyway, we'll proceed and hopefully not have such embarrassments again. I mean, it's good news for The Pretender and The Conspiracy, but The Decision, yeah, ends up in the bottom half. But we're done. But let's hope, yeah, let's carry on. Save more embarrassment. But yeah, The Decision had a score of 3.939 with 49 votes. So what is number 31? This is the last book to be below a 4-point score. Now, 4-point score is very good. And so this one just missed out. So with 49 votes and a score of 3.98 out of 5 average, it is book 16, The Warning. A very good book, especially for Jake's character. Not too much in terms of massive plot changes, but in terms of his leadership, this is a very important book. And honestly, it could have been higher. I'm not surprised it is where it is, but I wouldn't be upset if it went sort of round the middle, upper table somewhere. But yeah, there it is in position 31. This upper table is where we're going to start getting most of our really early books. So back in the wrong side of the ranking, you had book 2 and book 9. Those are the only two of the first 10 books that ended up in the bottom half of the list. So we're going to start getting a lot of the really early books on this shelf. And we start with number 4, The Message, the book where they rescue Axe, which should be a pivotal book. But unfortunately, it's Cassie's first book, and she really doesn't develop her character, which just feels a bit wrong, considering every other first narrator book really gives a good detailing of their character. This one just does not. It got a score of 4.04, so the error number, with 80 votes, 80. So score of 4.04, it's in the 4s, which means the fan base definitely likes it. Every book from now on is popular amongst the fan base. That's how I'm calling it. Anything with a score of 4 or higher is a popular book in the fan base. So that's where we are now. There you go, book 4, The Message. With a score of 4.06 from 50 votes, actually quite a low number of votes for a book in the the first 10 books of the series. It is book 7, The Stranger, the second Rachel book, the book where we finally meet the Ellimist. So a very important book for the series, just not quite as good as some of the other books around it. There's not really much else to say about this book apart from it's a Rachel book that isn't down here near the bottom, so it's unusual in that regard. I'm sorry to say, Rachel fans, but she didn't have the... I mean, look at it. The weakness, the separation, the journey. 3 Rachel books make up the bottom 5 books of the series. And add to that, the other 2 are Animorphs books. So basically, if you take out the Animorphs books, the bottom 3 books of the series, by a margin, are the Rachel books. But at least she's up here now. Hello, Rachel, in the top half. This one was a little bit of a shock for me, just about beating The Stranger with a score of 4.07 from 44 votes is book 38, The Arrival. I gave this one a 10 out of 10. I thought it was an amazing book, and we get the Andalites coming down and a whole bunch of plot twists, and it's just a generally well-written book. I mean, it was written by, was it Kimberly Morris? Yes, it was, and every Kimberly Morris book is pretty much... Kimberly Morris was amazing, and this was no exception. There's not really much wrong with it, honestly. There's not much wrong with this book at all. Maybe it just didn't hit the right notes with other members of the fan base, but that's it in 28. With a score of 4.12 from 57 votes, landing in at number 27 is Animorphs 3, Elfangor's Secret. This is my favourite Animorphs book. It's actually one of my favourite books of the series. I think I ranked it 3rd in my list. So it's a bit further down in this list than it is in mine, but it's still in the top half. And it is, according to you, the best Animorphs book. Because the other Animorphs are, well, there's 2 there, 1 and 2. And then book Animorphs 4 is on, you know, the upper end of the lower end of the tape. I need to think of a better way to say that. But anyway, this is the only one of the Animorphs that's going to end up in this video, the top half of the ranking. So proudly it sits there as your favourite Animorphs book, Animorphs 3, Elfangor's Secret. And now this is probably the biggest shock of the whole ranking, I think. It's one of the biggest. And you know what? I'm not disappointed. And I'm actually quite proud of you. Quite proud of you, Animorphs fans. Because there's one book in the Animorphs series that always seems to have the reputation as being one of the very best Animorphs books. It is like the pinnacle of the Animorphs series. It's got all the best moments, it's got the best characters. And as a kid reading this book, it's very good, it's very action-packed, it's very thrilling. But coming back to this book as an adult, it's very, very disappointing. The plot is, well, let's just say it's a badly written book. And yet still, it's got a massive reputation. But I'm very happy to see it land at number 26, rather than higher up in the table. With 74 votes and a score of 4.14, it's the Andalite Chronicles. Yeah, I didn't like it. It started well. It split into 3 parts. The first of those 3 parts was very good, but then it just fell off a cliff. It's like the authors were just in a drug-fueled mess and they couldn't string a plot together. There's just things disappearing and appearing at random times. It's filled with Hollywood-style writing. It's just terrible. And I'm glad to see that, to some extent you agree, that it is an overrated book. And it is, according to you, the worst of the Chronicles books. So, I mean, I'd think it would be better placed in on the bottom shelf. But at least it's down this side of the top shelf rather than up that end. So, yeah, I'm not too disappointed. And I do find it a bit shocking that you didn't put it somewhere up here. Okay? It's down here. The Andalite Chronicles. And next, at number 25, is another book that I think is very, very overrated. I just think it's a very bad book. With 41 votes and a score of 4.15, ranking just above the Andalite Chronicles, is book 33, The Illusion. This is the one where it's just Tobias being hit by an electrical buzzer for half the book. and him having memories that turned out to be incorrect, according to the books that the memories were taken from. It's an Ellen Giroux book, who actually has my two favourite books in the series, which are 41 and 47. So I think she's a great writer. I just think maybe the script that she was given to write a book from was probably just a fumbled mess, much like the Andalite Chronicles. You know, I don't know what the authors were doing. They were probably on another drug binge. But yeah, the first half of the book is filled with plot holes and characters acting out of character, and the second half is just this really awful villain, as in badly written, not awful as in, aha, evil villain. Badly written villain just torturing Tobias for half of the book, and I don't want to see that. It's torture. It's torture. What's the word? It's verging on torture porn. So if you like that, then yeah, you might like this book. If you're a normal person, you probably don't. Anyway, that one somehow goes there. We move on to rank 24. What are you doing, Lila? Do you want to go outside again? She comes in and then she just immediately wants out again. Go away, silly cat. Yeah, 24 with 66 votes and a score of 4.166. You'll notice I've made it 4 significant figures because it's very, very close to the book above it. Very, very close. It is book 8, The Alien, the first act's narration. Unless you're counting part of Megamorphs 1. But we're not, so yeah. It's got some great moments in it. The biggest problem with The Alien, as I've mentioned several times, is that pretty much everything in it gets retconned down the line, somewhere, in some form or another. Everything that happens in this, by the end of the series, might as well not have happened. So this book is pretty much let down by the rest of the series, not of its own fault. But I still think that plays a part in why it's only at 24, because otherwise it's a pretty spiffing book. It's pretty damn good. But alas, you're down at 24. You'll notice now we are starting to get those books from the first 10 of the series, because this is sort of where most of them fit in terms of popularity. This next one at position 23 with 71 votes and a score of 4.169. See why I had to add that extra significant figure? Because The Alien had 4.166. With a score of 4.169 is book 3, The Encounter. The first Tobias book, to me, is it the weakest of the... No, I think The Stranger is close to this one, but I think this one and The Stranger are the weakest of the first 10 books, personally. You obviously think it's somewhere in the middle. In the middle of those first 10 books, and I'm not too surprised. The story doesn't really add to much. It's mostly just Tobias feeling sorry for himself, and if you like that sort of stuff, then, you know, have fun with that. I'm not so much into the whiny emo kid whining and being emo for a whole book, so I don't rank it quite as highly. But anyway, Tobias's narration, first narration, in at 23. Now this next book is going to be represented by this one, which is the Vietnamese version of The Change. It's not The Change. Why am I representing a book with this? Because it's part of a double book. I don't have the US version for either of those double books, so I needed to find a replacement book to be a stand-in for this one. With 69 votes in 22nd in the ranking and a score of 4.188. Yeah, I know, it's another 3 decimal points thing because this one is very, very close to the one above it as well. With a score of 4.188 is book 54, The Beginning. Yeah, it's part of a double book with book 53, The Answer, and I don't have the singular version of either of those. And I've still got The Answer to come, and it's higher up the list, so I think it gets priority for having the physical copy. So I've just got a stand-in for book 54. So I'm going to put this upside down, just there, representing a stand-in for The Beginning. I do hope to get the physical versions of all the US books in due time, but because I'm in the UK, it's a bit more difficult. I hope you understand. Especially since a lot of those later books are very expensive. Add postage and packaging onto that, and I'm a bit stuck. But thankfully, Geek Truth is sending me stuff, and hopefully by the time this video is up, I've got it. Yeah! Thank you, Geek Truth. go check out his channel, Geek Truth 64. Does Animorphs content, you want to go check that out. But anyway, yeah, the last book of the series, book 54, is in position 22. It's lower than I would personally rank it, but I'm relatively happy that it's, you know, almost in the top 20. It's a great book. It's a great book at the beginning. A lot of people are disappointed in how it ends, hence why it's probably a bit further down the list. But I think it's a pretty fair rating. Now, which book was it very closely tied with? I think you'll like this. So book 54 got a score of 4.188. It had to be separated by adding another decimal point, because rounded up it comes to a score of 4.189, which matched the rounded down score of the next book, 4.19. So what makes me think this is going to be funny to see? Book 54. What was basically tied with book 54? Book 1, the first book of the series, The Invasion. It got 108 votes and got a score of 4.194. So you see why I added a decimal place, because if I had it at 2 decimal places, it would be tied exactly with book 54. I find that funny that this book series had the same, according to you, started and finished at about the same quality level, which is great. That's what you like to see, isn't it? But yeah, book 1 sits next to book 54, just a little bit higher, according to you. Not me, you. Okay, this is your fault. Now, we're into the top 20. These next two were incredibly close, because books ranking 19 and 20 matched exactly a 4.2 score. And they both got 40 votes. So with exactly the same number of votes, 40, and the exact same score, it came down to how many 5-star scores they got from you. What are the 2 books? Well, unfortunately, one of them has to be a double book. So which one of the Absolute or Sacrifice is it? Well, it's obviously going to be the Absolute. And the book 2 away from it, The Diversion, book 49. Both of these got 40 points with a score of 4.2. So it came down to which one of them had more 5-star ratings. The Diversion got 14, 1-4 5-star ratings, 14. The Absolute got 17, which means that the Diversion is in position 20, and I know this is a double book, but this stands for the Absolute book 51. That one goes in position 19. I think the Absolute is it's an absolutely rubbish book in my opinion, but you obviously like it. The Diversion could have been better, and probably should have, considering the stuff it covers, but both of them, yeah, just inside the top 20. A good showing for those 2 books. Who's next? In 18th, with 55 votes and a score of 4.22, is book 29, The Sickness. I think it's a pretty popular Cassie book. I'm not too surprised that it's here. In fact, if anything, I'd put it sort of like around here, so it's not too far off in 18th position. I wouldn't have put it in top 20, but close. But you've put it in 18th, and personally, I don't like the book very much. I think the whole plot is flawed, because Axe is ill because of some Andalite specific organ in his head is about to explode, and yet somehow this illness passes on to humans. How are you in 18th? I sort of get it, but I wouldn't have put you there. But well done, you did all right, Sickness. Number 17, with 46 votes and a score of 4.28. We're starting to rocket up that scores table now. It's book 30, The Reunion. This is another Marco's Mum heavy one, and probably one of the better Marco's Mother ones. It was certainly better than 15. I think this one did it a lot better. It also had the Hawkbajir side plot going on. It was just a generally entertaining book. There wasn't too much wrong with it. There were a few issues, and Elise Donner, who wrote this one, went on to make book 37, but that was after she got married, apparently, and so she was on her honeymoon when writing The Weakness and was a bit distracted. But nevertheless, she wrote book 30, which was a very good book. Not much else to say about it apart from well done. You got 17th position in the table. A very respectable ranking. Now finally, we come across our second Chronicles book in this ranking. The Andalite Chronicles performed poorly by what I'd expect. This one, I think is probably about right. It's probably about right. With 66 votes and a score of 4.29, coming in at 16th place is The Ellimist Chronicles. It's extremely sci-fi, the most sci-fi book of the series probably by a wide margin. And it's pretty much devoid of the usual Animorphs content. It's largely distinct from the Animorphs story, even the other Chronicles books. It does link in places, but it is basically a different story. So I still think they pulled it off very well. It's just a standalone, like a true standalone. With the Andalite Chronicles and the Hork-Bajir Chronicles and Visser, yeah, they're their own Chronicles books, but they're linked in multiple ways with the main series. You can see all the little parts where it joins. This one, it barely joins. It's just a backstory for the Ellimist, who is basically God. But it does very well. It's a very good story, very well written. Certainly better written than something like the Andalite Chronicles. So I think it's well deserving of its 16th place on this list. 15th place. We're close to the top 10 now. With 45 votes and a score of 4.31 is book 50, The Ultimate. The story where they hire disabled kids to eventually go and sacrifice themselves in one great charge in the final battle. But that's a different book altogether. This one was very good. It's also extremely important for Cassie and Jake's character. And of course it's where Cassie lets Tom get away with the blue box. A pivotal moment in the series. It's basically the thing that led to the end of the Yeerk invasion. Indirectly, but that's what pretty much started it off. And it was just well written. I think it was a Kimberly Morris one, wasn't it? So of course it's well written. Yeah, it's Kimberly Morris, so of course it's well written. Hence probably why it's at number 15th on this list. Big moment, covered by a great writer. You're not going to get much wrong here, and you agree. This is another book I feel is overrated, at number 14. With 47 votes and a score of... Yeah, I had to increase the number of decimal points again for this one, because it was so close to the book above it. At 14, it is The Revelation, book 45, with a score of 4.3191. Yeah, I've had to... This is the closest I think it ever came without just being an exact match. Yeah, book 45, The Revelation, I thought was bad, personally. But it is very plot heavy. One of the most important books in terms of plot of the series. This is where Marco's father has to go into Marco as well has to go into hiding. This is basically the beginning of the end cycle of the series. So it is very important. It's just a shame about the plot. But I think the plot heaviness, you know, plays a large part in you enjoying this book. And you're more than welcome to enjoy it, even if I think it's a bit tripe. Yeah. You're more than welcome to put it on your list at number 14. Now, The Revelation got a score of 4.3191. This book, at number 13 on the list with a 72 votes total, had a score of 4.3194. You see how close this one is? It's number 10, The Android. It's another Marco book. We've got a few Marco books popping up here. So you've got The Reunion, The Revelation, now got The Android. Yeah, there's a few Marco books popping up here. And it doesn't end here either. But yeah, The Android, an absolutely stonkingly good book. This is where we get introduced to Eric the Chi. And it's just very, very well written. It's the first book where we really, truly have no Visser 3 involvement. And it works. It's just a shame that they didn't take that formula forward much later, much more in the series. But yeah, number 10, The Android, is number 13 on your list, and a well-deserved 13 as well, I feel. Ranking number 12, with 54 votes and a score of 4.33, I said there were a lot of Marco books. It's book 20, The Discovery, another Marco book. This is the one where we first get introduced to David, the first part of the David trilogy. I think all 3 David trilogy books were bound to be in the top 20, and I wasn't wrong. And this one is at number 12. You've ranked it as the weakest of the David trilogy books. Where do the other 2 come in? I will tell you where. Ranking at 11th, with 53 votes and a score of 4.34, is book 21, The Threat. Yeah, so you've pretty much put The Discovery and The Threat right next to each other in terms of quality, with The Threat just about edging it. That is with a very similar votes total as well. But The Threat, I would agree, I think it's significantly better than The Discovery, but you also agree that it's just about better than book 20, The Discovery, which leaves us with one more David trilogy book to get to. Where do you reckon that one's going to be on the list? Let's find out what number 11 is, and then we'll... Oh no, that was 11, wasn't it? Yeah, that is number 11. So that's... The Threat and The Discovery just miss out on the top 10, which is where we are now. We're in the top 10, everyone. God, it's exciting. Huh. Is your favourite book yet to show up? Probably. Because that's the whole point. People's favourites are more likely to be up here, so... Yeah, you're probably thinking, oh, my favourite, it should be there. I wonder if it'll win. So we're missing the third part of the David trilogy. We're missing 2 Chronicles books. Ooh, what else is missing? Let's find out. At number 10. Bang, bang, number 10 with 46 votes and a score of 4.37. That's right, we're bumping up the scores. It is number 52, The Sacrifice, the final Axe book. And what do you know, Jon Snow? It is, just making sure, it's another Kimberly Morris book. Funnily enough, Kimberly Morris is all sort of up here. Why am I not surprised? Oh, except for The Return. That's a shame. Oh no, The Return's there. So it didn't do too badly. That's the one Kimberly Morris book that you disagree with me about. But you're wrong, so just, yeah. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, book 52, The Sacrifice, the final Axe book, the one where he speaks to the Andalites and they say, we're going to blow up the planet. And that was an Andalite impression. It was a Kimberly Morris. It's very well written. And you know what? It's the one where they finally do what they say they were going to do back in book 1, and they finally blow up the Yerk pool. Bing, bang, bong. That's the sound it made. And that's why that goes into the top 10 at position 10. What's number 9? With 62 votes and a tremendous score of 4.44. Coming in at number 9 is book 6, The Capture. Jake's second book and the one where he gets controlled by Tom's old Yerk. It was a great book. It wasn't my favourite, but it was certainly high stakes stuff and not one that anybody's going to be forgetting. The time where one of the Animorphs became a controller. That is always going to be a big deal, and according to you, it's one of the most popular books of the series. Coming in at number 9. Number 8 now, with 68 votes and a score of 4.47. You might think that, you know, this is where the authors really got into their stride, because it's book 5, it's the book before book 6. So book 5 and book 6 next to each other in the top 10. This was a tremendous book. I think it's in my top 5. It's just so well written. Every single scene has got something iconic going on. It's just packed full of great Animorphs moments, and they all add up to be a fantastic Animorphs book, and you agree with that. Yeah, so yeah, you'd say, oh, by the time books 5 and 6 came along, the authors had really gotten into their stride and they were producing absolute masterpieces. Just remember that as soon as we got past that, we got Megamorphs 1, and that's when, you know, it started to get worse again. But nevertheless, books 5 and 6 are really high in the ranking that you've given me. Well done. I thought this next one might come higher than it has done, but I'm also not surprised where it is, with 50 votes and a score of 4.48 exactly. And number 7, it is book 13, The Change. the book where Tobias gets his morphing power back and we establish the Free Hork-Bajir colony. It is a great book, one of the most iconic books of the series. It was the one I remembered most in my Animorphs hiatus years when I'd finished reading the series as a kid and before I started rereading them as a late teen adult. In the hiatus years, this was the one I remembered most. Just so much good stuff happens here that the whole Tobias plotline, yeah, it's got its normal whiny emo-ness, but it sort of takes a back step. It's there in the background, but it doesn't become too overpowering, and the plot points are just massive and relevant for the rest of the series, which I know you like, judging by this how you've ranked these books. You like a good bit of relevancy, and there's plenty of it here. It's a great book. It's number 7. I thought it could have been higher. I didn't think it would be lower than where it is. Certainly. It was definitely going to be a top 10. But a respectable result for one of the most popular books of the series. Number 6. With 83 votes and a score of 4.48. I've not quite put the full score in, but the change got 4.480. Why has that disappeared? But anyway, it got something just a tad higher. I will put it in down there. With a score just a little bit higher than the change, with 4.48. 83 votes. It is the third Chronicles book we've covered today. It is Visser. This book was incredible. Incredible. Until it came to paying off. Until it came to crunch time. In which case it did drop the ball. If it hadn't have dropped the ball, this probably would have been the best book of the series. But yeah, unfortunately, whether it was a scholastic decision to keep things rather tame, where it could have gone very dark, or the authors just didn't want to rock the apple cart too much with a non-main series book, yeah, it had these massive moments in its hands and it just thought, I don't want to deal with that. If it weren't for that, this probably would have gone higher. But nevertheless, it's still a great book, and I'm glad you agree that it is so. And you've actually put it at number 6 on the list, which means, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the top 5. Can you remember which ones haven't shown up yet? Can you tell? What are your predictions on which ones are going to win? I've got them all in my hand here, and it's going to be a good bit of fun. Oh! What is your favourite Animorphs book? It's not the same as mine because my 2 favourites are down on this shelf. But whatever. I still think all of these are great books. All of your top 5 are ones that I agree with. I agree, well, not their positioning, but the fact that they are great books. I think you've done really well in choosing these ones for the top 5. And at number 5, with a score of 4.52, 65 votes, it is The Departure, book 19. Cassie's best book. I would agree, and you definitely think so. This one just has a lot of the right ingredients. It takes a completely different tone, tackles things from a different angle, adds perspective where there previously wasn't so much perspective, adds a new faction. There's just so much important stuff here, just done in such a subtle and lovely way. And I'm not surprised that this one ranks in your top 5. It's a very popular book amongst the fan base. And not only that, but the book cover is superb as well. Everything about this book is stonkingly good. And that goes into our top 5. But it doesn't win the Bonnie prize. Number 4. 62 votes. A score of 4.56. Book 26, The Attack. It is surprising, really. Because back a few years ago, this book here, it wouldn't have struck me as being one of the fan favourites and such a good book, but it is an incredible book. And you agree with me. And it just, yeah, book 26, The Attack, just never struck me as, oh, that's one of the best Animorphs books. But it truly has to have that reputation now of being amongst those best books of the series. And everything about it is just so damn good. There's nothing really wrong with it. And I'm glad you agree, and that you put it in 4th place on the greatest Animorphs books of all time. Number 3, with 54 votes, just about beating The Attack with a score of 4.57. It's the other half of a double book. You remember I put the beginning back here represented by the Vietnamese version of The Change. It's book 53, The Answer. Forgive the fact that the front cover on this book is basically just the beginning front cover. The Answer is the penultimate book of the series, where most of the major parts of that final arc come together. Jake's plan, the action on the pool ship, the sacrifices that he makes, and it's done superbly. It's done superbly. You've put the beginning all the way down here, and they are basically like two halves of the same book, aren't they? The Answer and the beginning. But obviously the beginning is weighed down by the after-war stuff that a lot of people don't like. The Answer doesn't have that problem. The Answer just has all the action, all the payoff, and you've put it in third place in the ranking. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I'd have it probably sort of more down here. I can't remember where I put it in my ranking, but you've put it right up there. Bronze medal, The Answer, book 53. So that got a score of 4.57. Before that, everything was largely close. But the top two books jump up in score. Not by too much. So from a score of 4.57 for third place bronze, we go up to 4.63. And that is with 97 votes. So who gets silver? Who gets into second place with that massive score of 4.63? It is The Hawkbajir Chronicles, your favourite Chronicles book, my favourite Chronicles book, and it certainly beat out the competition. I agree entirely that it is the greatest of the Chronicles books. You've put it as high as second place in the ranking, which I wouldn't have gone that far. But again, I'm not too surprised either. It takes all the sort of ingredients and action that you would get in the Andalite Chronicles, takes out all the stupid plot holes, takes out all the Hollywood filler. There's a little bit of it in there, but it's not overpowering. It just nails what the Andalite Chronicles tried to do. It did it right. And it just took an extra 10 books or so down the line for them to do it. But the Hawkbajir Chronicles, deservedly, I would say, is second. It takes the silver medal, which means we're down to one book. And surely you know by this stage which one it is. You've watched this video, you've seen which books have come and gone. Here's the whole ranking. There's the bottom half, there's the top half. Who is going to win the Bonnie figurine, the completely irrelevant prize? 70 votes with a bally brilliant score of 4.66. It is Animorphs Meet the Stars. I mean, you can't really get a better book, can you? It's excellent. I mean, you get to hear all of Boris Cabrera's thoughts, Christopher Ralph, what he did during his morning routines, and yeah, the stroke's gone on far enough. It's the solution. I am actually shocked. I'm shocked, but yeah, it got a much higher score than everything else with 70 votes. The final part of the David trilogy, The Solution, book 22. It's a Rachel book, redemption for Rachel, who's got the 3 worst main book series books down here. Had such a torrid time in this ranking, but you know what? She comes out on top, and it's the final part of the David trilogy. I'm actually going to put you there, right in the middle at the top. You have won the fans' ranking as best book of the Animorphs series. And yes, I am a little bit surprised. I am a little bit. But it is a very, very good book. It's not my favourite by quite a way, but it has all the necessary ingredients for a brilliant Animorphs book. And it rounds off probably the Animorphs fans' favourite part of the series, the David trilogy. It rounds it off neatly, rounds it off nicely, and adds a whole amount of darkness to the series that probably had not been there previously. It is an essential book for the Animorphs reader. It's a shame about the front cover. It would have been great if we had something a bit more exciting than a mouse, but apart from that, you think it's almost a damn near perfect Animorphs book. So sorry about the glare, and thank you very much for watching. No, you're not meant to go on the floor. That's the weakness's job. I'm going to put it there so it doesn't fall off again. You get the Bonnie prize. you get sung to by Bonnie. And there you have it. A year and a half, roughly, of me asking you how you rank each book, and it's come to this. You have decided that The Solution is the greatest Animorphs book of the entire series. And though I disagree with you on that exact point, I don't think you're far off. I think you've done a pretty good job ranking these. So thank you for helping me with this ranking, for giving your votes. That's all you had to do, and you did it in, I'd say, pretty good numbers. Thank you very much for making these videos possible. If you disagree with the ranking, well, tough luck, it's a democratic vote, so get over it. And here's me seething with anger that my favourite book's down here, you bastards, you bastards. If you come at me with criticism of book 47 again, I'll bash you. Yeah, and who knows, maybe in the future I'll do another one of these. Give it like 3 or 4 years down the line, once we've got onto like episode 300 of Analysis. We'll do this again and see if it changes at all. But next, give it another couple of months or so, I'm going to do this again, but with the TV series episodes, and we're going to be watching the episodes on the Discord as a group. And yeah, just if you're not going to jump on the Discord and do that, go watch the episodes, give it a score out of 5, and get ready for those polls to come out so we get an accurate look at how you feel the Animorphs TV series ranked. And yeah, apart from that, I don't want to go on too much longer. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I hope you haven't criticised my head too much. I shall see you for the next video. I'm thinking about bringing back the Annie Sims for season 2, as I'm speaking now. Yeah, big stuff coming. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you somewhere else in the Animorphs universe. Ta-ra!